Hello, fellow Star Wars fans. My name is Starrapter, and welcome to the channel. This is a very exciting review for me today. Of course, it's going to be a spoiler-free review for Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars, written by Sam Maggs. This one is very special to me because Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, the very cool video game that came out a couple years ago in 2019, is my favorite Star Wars game of all time. I think it is the best Star Wars video game that has been made, especially with the Disney era of everything happening since the buyout of Lucasfilm. So this is very special for me because I love video games and I love the publishing. So you tie those two things together and it's very hard not to impress me. And well, I will say right off the bat, this book impressed me. So let's get into the details, a rough summary of what is happening. So if you are aware of the timeline of Cal Kestis and his adventures, Fallen Order takes place about 5 years after Revenge of the Sith. This book takes place a couple years after Fallen Order. And then we have the upcoming video game Star Wars Jedi Survivor that takes place 5 years after Fallen Order. So this book literally is taking place, as the cover suggests, smack dab in the middle between those two games. So we are getting a lot of character development, a lot of analysis of the characters that we didn't even get in the first video game that are going to prove to be, I'm sure, very worthwhile going into this next game. So what is happening so far? So if you're aware of the timeline, there is no official rebellion yet, but the Stinger Mantis crew is considering themselves a strike team against the Empire. They have been making hit and run kind of tactics against them. They have been trying to take out some of these scum and villainy type organizations such as the Haxion Brood, which has been tailing them ever since the escapades they get involved with in Fallen Order. If you've played, you know. So in this latest adventure, they have come across a stormtrooper that wants to defect, and she gives them intel on a very special object, which I won't spoil, that is going to prove very beneficial for the Jedi survivors out there. So that is their mission. They come across, as you see on the cover, the fifth brother. So as we've seen in Fallen Order, they ran into plenty of Inquisitors, including Darth Vader himself. So we see that ever as a present danger. And that's as much as I wanted to get into with the story. Going through some of the positives for me. First and foremost, if you have not played the game Jedi Fallen Order, and not everybody's going to play the game, it's actually kind of difficult, and it's going to be something that maybe somebody will watch the cutscenes on YouTube or whatever, or even if you don't even feel like doing that, you just want another Star Wars book to read. I think this job done by Sam Maggs does a fantastic job of just creating a very good entry level into this franchise, specifically with Cal Kestis and the rest of the Stinger Mantis crew. It's very much accessible for any kind of Star Wars fan because we're getting all the breadcrumbs that were left over from Fallen Order, and it's organically folded into this narrative where we can understand where these characters are coming from, where they're going to go into the future. So I like that way that she's able to kind of skirt the edge of appeasing to the hardcore fans like myself of these characters while introducing new ones to the characters. Also, the down-to-earth conversations throughout this, just those kind of like Mass Effect type of conversations where you're just like on the ship, like Stinger Mantis, and characters are just intermingling, they're just talking, they're going from mission to mission, planet to planet, just very natural sounding, organic ways of going about things. I liked how flawed these characters are. Sam Maggs really takes the ball and runs with it from what we've seen in Fallen Order and fleshes out these characters even more, making them very complicated in a way that I haven't really seen a lot in Star Wars as of late. So this really shines through with me as, wow, things are not as simple and as grand as you might think in a science fiction fantasy world such as Star Wars. I like how the characters are all fighting their inner battles. You have Greez that still has some darkness in him as far as gambling debts and things like that. Then you have Merrin, who is a Dathomir, a Night Sister that is wondering why her magic is suddenly fading and how that is affecting her mentally. Then you have Cal Kestis, who is trying so hard to fight against the Empire. He is the leader of the Stinger Mantis strike team, and he's trying to do his best about leading because he doesn't want to fail. And he's got all these very personal kind of things going in his head with the fall of the Jedi Order and all this still. And you have Cere, who's trying to preserve the Jedi way. And all these different characters have these different beliefs, and it causes them to kind of butt heads. And there's a lot of moments in this that are quite stressful because the characters are really getting into it, and I can totally see these characters based off playing the game and how they're written, just going at it with one another. Really cool stuff. I will say, out of all the characters, Merrin is the highlight of this book. You might think Cal Kestis is, because you play as a character in Fallen Order, but Sam Maggs does a great job with Merrin. She's a highlight of the book, just seeing her character development and the way she's interacted. She has a very close relationship, a romance with this female stormtrooper that I find so genuine and so fresh, and it's not overdone. And I feel, again, it feels natural to me. It feels like it's a step up for romance in a Star Wars galaxy in a way that's respectable to those reading. I like to see how this group is dealing with the fight against the Empire. Again, this is before the times of Andor and Rogue One. There's no official Rebel Alliance, but we're seeing the toll that this is taking on these people. Cal Kestis is trying so hard to fight against the Empire, and they are taking losses, they are getting wounds, they are just getting so much trauma, and they're always going at it. And it comes to the question of how much longer are they going to fight, because somehow it doesn't seem like this is paying off to them, but they feel like they have to do this piece by piece. So I like that whole mentality of the study of going into the minds of these people and seeing how in this time era fighting against the Empire could possibly work. And the story in its nutshell is about loss. Every person in this story has loss, and it's how you overcome that loss, how you move forward. So I feel like there's really strong messaging in this story overall from a thematic perspective of just what it is to process and move forward. So I have some negatives. They're more like nitpicks, but what I will say is some of the conversations I feel like sort of got repetitive sometimes. So it just seemed to me that it was, okay, maybe kind of said this before something, but other than that, the pacing was great overall in this book. I like the action sequences. Sometimes I feel like there were just things like the game stuff that was like kind of threaded into the story a little bit too much. Like how many times are stims mentioned from BD? It's like almost like everybody's addicted to stims, as you know, in the game. That's how you heal yourself. So BD was constantly shooting out these stims. Oh, we're running out of like that was a little bit much for me. Also, not a big fan of the cover. I know that's definitely more of a nitpick than anything else. Not anything Sam Maggs is, but just the fact that we have the fifth brother looking animated, whereas all the other characters are looking relatively realistic, even though they are video game characters. We have a representation of a character of an actor playing the fifth brother in the Obi-Wan series, so at least maybe put him on the cover. I get these things take time, but that was a little bit of a nitpick, as the cover is just not very appealing for me, at least. Overall, I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. Very enjoyable Star Wars novel. I will say there's nothing earth-shattering that will really affect Jedi Survivor that I can tell will happen. Maybe there will be little threads and nuggets they might mention in the game. I can't say this is a must-read right this second to go read it before the game comes out, because it just doesn't seem like it's going to be super impactful from a thematic perspective. Yes, I think you're going to see how these characters might have addressed, and I hope they do. I hope there's enough resonance, and I hope that Respawn gave Sam Maggs enough notes to really feel like this book is going to amount to something, especially. And even if it doesn't amount to something, I think this is still a good book that really stands well on its own and has a message and a story to tell. And there's so much more story for these characters that I really can't wait for the game, and maybe we'll get even more books and maybe more games in the future for Cal Kestis and the Stinger Mantis crew. But yeah, this family is awesome. Gives me very much Star Wars Rebels vibes from that kind of found family perspective, bringing people into a group that all have trauma, people that don't have a home. They all join the Stinger Mantis crew, and they all find home in themselves as a group of people, which I think is a really powerful theme for Star Wars especially. So definitely recommend picking this one up. Are you a fan of the Star Wars Jedi franchise? Are you going to be picking this one up? Let me know in the comment section right down below. For more on Star Wars, you're already in the right place. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss notifications like when the channel goes live for my weekly Outer Rim transmission podcast. So anyway, that's going to do it for me, Starrapter. Thank you so much for watching, and may the Force be with you always. Thanks for checking out the video. Please hit that thumbs up symbol. It helps me know that I'm making content that you guys enjoy. And if you enjoyed this video, I also include 2 videos down below you guys should check out. And please consider subscribing to this channel. It helps support me, and it notifies you guys of when I get new videos up on the channel. You can also contact me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Starrapter.